I accept that.
I didn't.
Sir.
I didn't realize the regulated plan to match the plat. Yeah, I figured that.
This meeting.
Gentlemen's.
That's the way it is. I think it's gonna go faster than our first meeting today.
First meeting, considering the agenda was pretty good, or the last meeting. Yeah, Nicole probably have already explained, we have had and are continuing to have printing problems with the Adobe in this package. Our IT person is still on a mission to try to make it work, but sorry about that.
Go back.
Those who usually use the hard copies.
100 pages.
Oh, that's no problem. So,
Well, it's just bizarre when it's one of those things where it's spooling and it goes through all the motions and
yeah,
there's no output.
I did the exact same thing in my office.
Go back. Okay. Am I there?
Yeah, I mean, that's the agenda. This should be the
That's what I
agenda
wanna be.
packet.
And then does everything else go up
I would just start, I would just use this. This is the agenda for each item we're on
and hit it?
and hit it, and
Okay.
then go back and then hit it. That way it'll be on the right.
Okay, thank
But I'll have it on. big
Nothing
screen, too.
too controversial on that.
Last call when you're ready.
Call to order the City of Port Aransas Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Thursday, September 28, 2023 at 3:03, I'm sorry, 2023, 3:03 p.m. Public hearing, the Port Aransas Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing on the following. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. Item 2.1 FPLT 23-001459 Spoonbill Bay Phase 2, a particular harbor PUD being 11.68 acre tract of land. I believe it's supposed to say out of a 35.08 acre tract of land of the Samuel Ward Survey 591, land script 194, abstract 407 Mustang Island State Land Surveys, Nueces County, Texas, described in special warranty deed from Premier Port Aransas Properties LLC to Ocean Harbor Inc., recorded in document number 201-900-3709. Official public records of Nueces County, Texas, applicant Ocean Harbor Inc., property location 5200 block of Highway 361. Item 2.2 FPLT 23-001460 Spoonbill Phase 2 Pool, a particular harbor PUD being a 1.21 acre tract of land out of 35.08 acre tract of land of the Samuel Ward Survey 591, land script 194, abstract 407 Mustang Island State Land Surveys, Nueces County, Texas, described in a special warranty deed for Premier Port Aransas Properties LLC to Ocean Harbor Inc., recorded in document number 201-900-3709, official records of Nueces County, applicant Ocean Harbor Inc., property location 5200 block of Highway 361. Citizen comments and reports. At this time, comments will be taken from the audience on any subject matter. Please limit comments to 3 minutes in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. The Planning and Zoning Commission may not discuss or take action on any item that has not been posted on the agenda. Any call-ins, any write-ins? Item 4.1, discuss and take action on the minutes from Thursday, May 25th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from May 25th, 2023.
Mike Diana's motion to approve.
I'll second.
Craig's got a second of the motion.
Nicolette,
Yes.
Steve Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Dayon,
Yes.
Nick Streber,
Yes.
Richard K,
Abstain.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Smash Mide,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item 4.2, discuss and take action on minutes from Thursday, July 27th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Is that Richard?
Yes.
Richard seconded, Richard motion, Mike seconded.
William Streber,
Yes.
Mike Dayon,
Yes.
Richard K,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Stephen Wilson,
Yes.
Chad Schmidt,
Abstain.
motion carried.
Item 4.3, discuss and take action on the minutes from Thursday, August 24th, 2023, Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Stephen Wilson is motion to approve.
Second.
Mike Dennis second.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Richard Kay,
Yes.
William Struber,
Yes.
Mike Dayon,
Yes.
Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Stephen Wilson,
Yes.
John Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item 4.4, discuss and take action on FPLT 23-001459 Spoonbill Phase 2, a particular harbor PUD applicant Ocean Harbor Inc. Property location 5200 block of Highway 361. Rick, you setting a timer on yourself?
You're looking at it on it.
I'm looking at it on my list.
It's good to be on it.
Oh, okay. Spoonbill Bay. So Spoonbill Bay, again, one of actually the last plan unit developments that city council had approved. Is now at the point where they're coming in with their phased plating. To actually make money on the development, I assume is kind of the goal. So this is a phased, this is the plating action as a result of that preliminary approval. Stephen Grunwald is the project engineer. He's there for any technical questions. The documents are pretty straightforward, I believe. Stephen, I didn't find anything unusual with this phase plating as opposed to any other PUD. We'll talk about the pool here on the next item, but anything else that you want to add? Conforms to our plating ordinance. Our reviewing engineer as well as the utilities all acknowledged consistency and approval with our plating ordinance. So we recommend approval.
Was there any change from the preliminary plat? I mean, any changes that we should know that aren't, because you don't have them to compare.
Stephen Grunwald here with Urban Engineering. The only real change from the original submission was we took 6 residential lots and combined it with a open space lot to create a bigger open space lot. But that's really the only change in utility service or roadway service.
And
none of that stuff.
But that one's for the,
Yeah,
not on this one.
Right,
This is just the. first
yeah,
one.
and so, but over the, I think maybe Chad's question was over the originally approved, but and things like that, just for some of you that may not be familiar, something like that, it doesn't fundamentally change the plan unit development as far as its mixed use residential. The component like that is usually done through a minor amendment, which Stephen submitted, and I just as a minute ago acknowledged that we'd accept that minor amendment, but you'll see that in the next item. Because actually that plating action is by a separate item.
And Hanson does a good job of comparing what's submitted in these phases to the preliminary and to the PUD document. So feel comfortable that they are doing it.
Okay, good.
And if there's any, it would be if it. We likely wouldn't bring it to you if it wasn't a reconciliation between the submitting engineer and our reviewing engineer, but in the event that it might be, you'd see those discrepancies on the review.
And as you know, when we try looking over this, when I get to the plat on a PDF, that's when everything comes to a halt. If I get past it, then everything works good again. So it's real hard to compare, go back to the prelim and compare it when printer's broken.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone? Any questions, comments?
I reviewed it pretty carefully and I don't see anything at all that stands out to me as not being, appropriate or following under the guidelines of the PUD.
Yeah, my own curiosity, is phase 1 complete?
No.
Where does phase 1 stand?
Looks like they're doing dirt work to me.
Dirt.
Yeah.
They've got civil plans have been approved and they're proceeding with that, which is why the note on there says that this phase can't be filed and recorded until the other phase is filed and recorded. I think they put that in there to just kind of cover their bases. Because I can't imagine a situation where they would ever try to file the second phase before this first phase is done.
But good point, Bill, is it once you approve it, it basically gets shelved until the infrastructure and everything, all the components of that development are in, the infrastructure's in, utilities, roads typically.
Sometimes these final plats are approved for a year or, up to 2 years before the plat actually gets filed. There's a pretty big process in infrastructure and projects like that.
And the water district gets involved too, because obviously a lot of the infrastructure are their utilities and all, so the water district will sign off. And usually those, the road happens soon after the utilities go in, so usually it all kind of comes together at the very same time at the end.
Yeah, and Chad can speak to that because somebody from planning and zoning and somebody from city council has to sign off on those plats prior to recordation. So it usually takes a while before you see these.
The properties can't sell, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
They get it all teed up, but they can't actually start closing on selling lots.
it's like in this holding pattern.
Very good. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve item 4.4 FPLT 23-001459.
Mike Dan has motion to approve.
Second,
Is that Bill?
Richard.
Oh, sorry, my head was down. Richard K is a second.
All right, William Strieber,
Yes.
Mike Dayan,
Yes.
Stephen Wilson,
Yes.
Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Richard K,
yes,
Craig Scott.
Yes.
Chad Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item 4.5, discuss and take appropriate action on FPLT 23-001460. Spoonbill Bay Phase 2 Pool, a particular harbor PUD, Ocean Harbor. Applicant Open Ocean Harbor Inc., property location 5200 block of Highway 361.
So same plan unit development. We moved to kind of the center of the project and the plating for the pool area, the recreation area. And as Stephen explained earlier, they just recently had asked that they take 6 of the T3 Transact lots along with a triangular piece that was there and just combine them all into that one lot for that recreation lot, which would be Transact T2, right? T2, that one right there. So that's that all happened kind of behind the scenes, but I just wanted to kind of lay it out that way. So that that now was just different than the master plan that was provided. So again, it's well within the flexibilities afforded a PUD. So I did acknowledge to Stephen just through an email that we'd accept that amendment, and so that's the plating that you see there for that. That was kind of that's just an additional history piece to that.
So that was the amendment you were talking about as we kicked off here. Sorry, I'm trying to get past that screen. Any commissioners have any questions about the pool flag?
Negative.
Invite a motion.
make a motion to approve.
Mr. K is motion to approve.
I second that.
Stephen Wilson is seconded.
Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Mike Dayan,
Yes.
William Strieber,
Yes.
Richard K,
Yes,
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Stephen Wilson,
Yes.
Chad Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Will the lazy river go around that perimeter, Alex? Is that?
All- all in one.
I like me a good lazy river.
I know, right?
Item 4.6, discuss and take appropriate action to confirm that BFDP 23-001471 is consistent with city's coastal management plan. Applicant proposes to construct a dune walkover. Applicant Mark Admire Ranzis Princess Condos, property location 720 Access Road 1A.
Stephen, since I see you there, I'm going to let you earn your keep, even though the submission again is an outstanding submission. The documents are great, but I'll let you kind of present it.
So they have the revisions in the packets that they have digitally in front of us, but my guess is not anybody's had any time to go over any of the revisions.
Okay. Then I'll go over the comments too. So
Yeah.
this is an application to replace the existing walkover at the Aransas Princess condominium. It largely follows the existing layout of the current walkover. The adjustment we're making is on the beach end. We're adjusting it so that it meets accessible grades because the demographic of the facility is older people. So we're making the path mostly accessible. And it's pretty straightforward installation. We
We have
have
it behind you.
some minor impacts as we get up into the dunes. Also have this
So.
That's an aerial of the existing, correct?
Correct, that's existing right now.
Yeah, and so we're changing it like here to the beach.
Okay,
And we're causing a little bit of impact right here. As we get up over the peak of the dune. And then a little bit more here. This is kind of a weird bulb out. And it's really, it might not even be there today because it's from beach maintenance and that part moves back and forth. But basically, we're gonna take these two areas and pile them up in here. And then, as with every dune permit, we bring an extra dump truck full of dune material in and reinforce it a little bit extra. There's some mitigation that happens here and here and here. And of course, in here, as we're working in there with tractors, working on the walkover. But we tried to keep it to a minimum. It gets kind of wide here because we have to demolish the existing structure. And then it gets kind of wide here because we have to be able to get a tractor up into dunes. And then I'd end there normally, but it's worth addressing and talking through the comments that Hanson made because we got the no exceptions letter today, this morning.
I was gonna ask because the no exceptions letter was not in our.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, the digital copy, you should have that, and then
So you
we
need-
just literally got the no exceptions.
Okay, so you emailed the no exceptions. Okay.
Yeah, and there's only 6 comments and I think I can go through them pretty quickly. There was a misspelling on exhibits 1 to 4, that's corrected. One of the property lines that we pulled from the GIS went across access road 1A, we corrected that. There were a couple of areas that showed critical dunes either on the plan or the profile and not on the other. So all those are corrected. They're all shown on the plan and the profile now. That'll be exhibit 3.1 through 3.3, I think it is. And it's that's really just a clarification. It didn't change the calculations. And then comment 4 is the same thing. It's just a different, the first one talks about mitigation and the second one talks about impacts. So there were some mitigation hatches that didn't translate and some impact hatches that didn't translate. And again, those are all corrected. Comment 5 is provide a plat or a survey identifying a boundary and or limits of the property. This is a condo, so it's kind of confused. Just by the letter of the dune rules, anytime we're working with a condominium in the dune rules, a lot of times we don't have a plat. Sometimes there's one, but in this case, the recorded document is a condominium document, and I provided some of the exhibits out of it in the dune permit. And then additionally, I got the whole recorded document from the public records and forwarded it to Nicole and the reviewing engineer, which was Hanson in this case. And then it appears the plan identifies a contractor access corridor on adjacent property. Please provide the agreement. So that's this area. I have to identify that because we're gonna have equipment moving in and out of that corridor to access the site. Potentially, we can build it without it, but that's the easy way to do it. And the neighbors work well together. So they foresee being able to use that. And the written agreement's being worked out, but we don't have it today. And I think that, again, with or without it, the permit would be viable. And there's no dunes in that area. So on the subject of dune permitting, it's a no dune area.
if you were to not receive approval from the neighbor, how would you access the
So
property?
there's a parking garage under here
Mhm.
and you can get equipment in here from there and then access the whole site. Or you can come from the beach.
Okay,
We try not to make a road from the beach, of walkovers in the building.
If you come from the condo end, will you need to make a access corridor there?
Not
Because it doesn't look like
necessarily.
it's,
It'd make the construction significantly more difficult, but they could demolish it. And then build back.
okay.
Yeah, and then they really only need the equipment. They use it frequently, they use it throughout the construction, but they really need it there when they're driving pilings. And then as they work back, they need it less and less. So pretty standard walkover.
and it's essentially the same, correct, as it is existing, except you've got a bump out right there where you almost, where it says site in the middle, kind of in the middle to your left right there. Is that-
So that's currently there, it's just closer.
Oh, it is,
Yeah, there's a shower right here and we're moving
Okay.
it out a little.
okay.
And the very end on the beach side is gonna have a different configuration. for it.
Yeah, it's gonna have a dog leg there.
Ted, I've got Hanson's letter up here.
Oh, cool. I was, I didn't look at my email to find it.
And subject to your approval, it's implied that our beach director and or me will have the final say on the terminus, just to ensure that the placement, regardless of what the plan shows, I think Stephen understands that. We just want to make sure that the outermost extent of that structure doesn't extend into the travel way. So we always lay eyes on that part, and they'll provide stakes, and we'll approve where that'll go. So
And we
we keep it tucked in.
go over that with the contractor when they come to pull the building permit to build the walkover.
And you feel like the proposed contractor access corridor is sufficient?
Yes.
Okay. Thought that would be appropriate to ask.
Yep.
Do any of the commissioners have any more questions for Stephen?
Yes, sir.
Questions, comments? Invite a motion.
Make a motion to approve. BFDP 23-001471.
Stephen Wilson's motion to approve.
Second.
Mike Down, a second to the motion.
Nick Lorette,
Yes.
William Streeter,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Richard K,
Yes.
Mike Dayon,
Yes.
Stephen Wilson,
Yes.
Chad Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item four,
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for, again, another good submission.
item 4.7, discuss and take appropriate action to confirm that BFDP 23-001008 is consistent with city's coastal management plan. Applicant proposes to provide more information on temporary impacts for the construction of a walkover existing BFDP 20-0976 application bill OT BDD commercial.
So kind of a segue from Richard's question regarding the construction zone. We're here with this permit really because of a construction zone issue. So the history, this permit was previously approved for this walkover a little over 3 years ago. Work began a couple of years after it was originally approved and proceeded. However, during construction, although all of the impacts that were anticipated with the construction were intended to be temporary impacts, just obviously impacting the dunes and the vegetation, monitoring, measuring, and then restoring them back once the construction was complete. During that process, the contractor, I use the term, ended up coloring outside that line, constructing outside what was originally approved, that in hindsight was very, very narrow. It was a very narrow construction site. Probably had we been on our game, we would have identified that and confirmed that was enough area, as Richard asked, and as Stephen had kind of identified that construction zone on his. It was not. The contractor, I fully believe, didn't realize that because their entire intent was the impacts only to be temporary, that it really was a significant issue, that they were outside of that line that was done on the documents. GLO, on the other hand, ended up becoming very concerned and actually caught that.
After complaint.
Yeah, after after complaint, which happens with almost every dune permit. Somebody complains, and usually there's a dune permit involved. But there was merit there. They were doing that. Interestingly enough, this was one of the first permits that I'm aware of where the contractor actually employed as part of the team an environmental engineer that was tracking through the entire process, the impacts, the volumes, the square footage of vegetation impacted, and documenting with photos and other notes the process as they went. So it sounded like it was going to be a pretty easy process to go back and satisfy GLO. Well, in the meantime, as you remember, that permit was issued 3 years ago. The expiration was at hand about the time all of this was happening. Normally, there's 90 day, 2 90-day extensions that are allowed. So we just obviously told the, as they were getting this documentation together, which I continue to refer to as supplemental documentation, working with the GLO as to how to develop it, the expiration came about. And so they submitted a request for an extension. GLO said no. It's those impacts, even though temporary are significant enough, we're not going to allow the extension. We want a whole new dune permit. I pushed back, since we're the delegated authority from GLO, and said that's ridiculous. They're all temporary impacts. They've documented it. We've got photo evidence. They actually have an environmental engineer on staff. And so we went back and forth. And as I pondered the situation, we realized that there was not really a time issue for the contractor. They were proceeding. We weren't going to stop them anyway, because that would be more detrimental to the dunes and erosion and damage than allowing them to proceed. And so with that, we said, well, let's just go ahead and get the supplemental documentation. We'll add another digit to the dune permit, and we'll bring it back through the whole process. Since time wasn't really an issue with them, we bring it all back to P&Z, back to the council, and ultimately present it to GLO as a quote new dune permit. Although we've not gotten, we went ahead and submitted all the supplemental information in advance to GLO as a review, because it was developed with their assistance with this environmental engineer. So they've already received it. We've not gotten comments back, or you'd have them. But that's hopefully not too confusing of an explanation as to why we're here with this. It was a lesson regarding that construction corridor. Like I said, in the permit you just approved, there were going to be some impacts, and mitigation was addressed. In this one, there were not. None of the impacts were going to be anything other than temporary. And I was actually on site today. They are long gone. They're finished. They've been restored. And that was the other issue and argument I tried to make with GLO, is that this will all be gone and resolved before we ever get this back to you. But nonetheless, so I never really, they're not aware that we were actually, although I told them that we would do the process. They I left it with them officially was that we were going to consider it renewed. But like I said, as I explained, there really was no harm in giving them what they want in the form of a new dune permit, although it's the old dune permit with the supplemental information. Does that make any sense at all?
And it's already done. Yeah.
It's done. Work's been completed. I don't know for how long. That was part of my argument with GLO is that, but GLO has their rules, and and I think sometimes there is no gray area. It's black or it's white, and so like I said, I could have left it just we're going to extend it. They're going to give you the supplemental information, but when there's land leases involved and there's property that GLO still has to they still have to deal with GLO in a lot of instances. It was best to try to play nice, and so anyway, that's why we're here.
So in its current state, the mitigation has happened.
It's happened. It's been restored. It's all complete.
Vegetation's trying.
Right. And all the information and the documentation to that effect is now with GLO. So they have it. They'll get, depending on the action here and with council, they'll get it back as a new dune permit that is really nothing more than the old dune permit with the information, the supplemental information as to the, and we did punish them. We did send them the very nasty letters that these are critical mistakes, don't do this. And how did we deal with the punitive amount?
Come in and have to pay a double fee.
Yeah, I had to pay a double fee, and but the same thing we've done if somebody else were to have gotten caught. Like I said, in this case, it was just we felt it was much ado about nothing because the impacts were always intended to be and going to be temporary. So
this is more just for my own knowledge, but on these slides that have lines and then they have heights and widths or something. What is that? Where it'll say 35 feet long, 15 feet in height, number D. And I guess that's
Is that just the dune?
That's
Is that
the dunes are labeled and
That's gotta be.
On one of those-
Well, you can see,
I think those are actually
so
the,
there's D.
Then showing back.
So look at, well, you see this
Page
slide
one
here.
fifty-three of 154 has those.
The blocks.
Oh,
Yeah.
where they're,
the
yeah.
different dunes that they identified and.
What's the rebar for? Yeah, there's a pile of rebar in one of these pictures. On wood structure. I'm trying to figure out what that's for.
They built the sidewalk up to it.
Oh, did they?
Oh, okay.
How far off was the original plan versus?
It varied. Like I said, of course, they do a nice neat straight line, but it was right up against, I believe it was the south boundary of the construction. And they obviously during construction, probably no more than about, I wouldn't think 15 or 20 feet outside of that. In some areas, it wasn't, again, it wasn't a straight line, all of that. It was, just outside of that very, very tight line, which should have never been drawn. I mean, there was no way to have been able to go in there and do a walkover within that tight constraint.
And then they ended up having, I guess from the beginning to there was 4 or 5 areas listed as disturbed, but then you get toward the end here and it looks like area A and area D ended up not having disturbances. Yeah. Pull back. Got it.
But like I said, it was interesting and I think they were fortunate in having that person on staff that was documenting it all as it went. It would have been a lot more difficult for them had that not happened. So it was fortuitous that they had actually employed somebody. It was an interesting concept.
It is an interesting concept. I wonder if we should consider making that a requirement. Is that something that would be?
Kind of touched on that
Once before.
as far as follow up and wrap up
Yep.
with a professional. I don't know, what is it? Is it in there? What is our requirement right now?
I don't think we ever formalized.
Well, we just talked about whose responsibility it was, and
Ultimately, the property.
it's the owner, no matter what.
Correct.
It doesn't matter how much it costs. You're getting a favor from the state. The state's
No doubt.
offering you a privilege of doing this within restraints.
Yeah.
And so maybe we haven't done anything, but we're concluded that regardless of the cost, should be the responsibility of the owner, the applicant.
I think ideally we would have an environmental engineer as a requirement.
Because right now, these guys do it as thoroughly as they can, when they can.
And we have no experience in ability. We can go out there and say, yeah, they're,
Sure.
but to say, yeah, that's 215 cubic yards, or even say it's 200 cubic yards, even rounding, and we understand that sometimes these exact numbers that we throw around, even the GLO acknowledges we've seen in documentation that, get pretty darn close, but even then for us, it's next to impossible, to know that what was done and all that work that Stephen put together, is actually going to be affected and acted on by a contractor.
Yeah.
We have greater confidence in some contractors than others, but we can't dictate, who does the work. So.
Were you guys the engineers on this one as well? Or was that Stephen Greenwald?
This is urban.
I think it looks like urban.
Okay.
It was me.
But it was Stephen when he worked at Urban. Pick that up.
How funny.
Former light.
Yeah. Well,
I can't say, no, there's no requirement for an engineer in the due permitting process.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the beast that makes engineers put it together. And I don't know if I wear an environmental engineer hat, kind of do, but when permits together, but,
sure.
so it's just that specific wording is kind of difficult. And then there's also different scopes for dune permits, like moving an 8 cubic yard dune per house. It's pretty obvious that the stand would from here to here,
Right.
but on something like these walkovers, they're a different scale.
Right.
It's definitely not a one size fits all.
Mhm.
Permit follow up.
I think that discussion was going into the coastal management plan provisions, and then Harvey hit, and then
Right.
that got on the back burner.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that I don't know what the timing is going to be. It comes from higher levels than us, but I would think that sometime in the not too distant future, you'll be getting the coastal management plan back that's in dire need of revision. And I know we'd accumulated a lot of things that needed to be changed and go into it. just, this is a good one to keep in the back of your mind as one that, you know, might want to be somehow worded into it. You know, and I use the term environmental engineer, but just somebody that has the ability to look at volumetric data, LiDAR, all those tools that you know, that they have at their disposal that we don't, just to ensure that, you know, that the last few remaining pieces that we have that, you know, would actually need a dune permit, at least will be done right. So I think it's certainly worth talking about when the time comes.
Well, perhaps as part of the approval of this dune permit, we could suggest to council that they consider, you know, reviewing that as a possibility. For now
Or maybe
short-term
one
or
better
as
is that
part-
certainly if it's the pleasure of the commission to say, you know, that you're ready to tackle
You're
the
ready to
coastal
bring it
management
on.
plan, you know, that you'd like to bring it on. I mean, I think they would, you know, there's just so many priorities that are always on those lists, and they're all important, but the coastal management plan is long overdue. As Stephen said, we were just getting into it when Harvey hit. So
I think if we were to, I've always worked off of we're here for the council and they ask us. That might not be the most proactive in the world, but that also, I'm convinced that, I know that's why we're here, is for them to ask us. So, but I'm not doing it. If we do, I'm confident, just based on the time I've been up here, we don't really need to get into the nuances of this is just 8 yards or this is a $500,000 walkover. It's just the requirement of the owner to hire. I'm not the person, whoever the designated some type of person is that you can hire to confirm that it's over the 2-year period or whatever it's done
Right.
properly. We don't get into small projects, can't cost more than this. It's a private thing with the private applicant and their private professional.
Just make it a blanket requirement.
Exactly. And then as far as how much it costs, well, it shouldn't cost, if this professional was doing it, an 8-yard review moved over 10 feet is going to not be anything like a 1,000-foot beach walkover. So we don't need to get into that. I don't
Gotcha.
believe.
But it would be completely, I mean, it would be appropriate at some point, difficult, but from what I'm gonna say is it, but it would be appropriate for you to come back at some point in the future and say, did they get all their mitigation done? You know, and we'd be able to say, we don't know. They moved one mound of sand over there, so. But my point is that because, again, you've approved something and you're entitled to some expectation. And again, to Nick's point is that we could go back to the property owner with that in mind, you know, saying, you know, can you prove this up for us? You know, here it's at the end of sometime between now and the end of 3 years, which is how long they have to get the mitigation done.
Just got to keep it simple is my point.
A couple of years ago, we went through multiple meetings where we were doing all this work on dune permits, but then there really was not a lot of follow-up. And Jim Irvin came and spoke to us, and it came back in the end that at the city's request, this is the way I understood it, the city's request, if something didn't look right, it was going to be the owner's responsibility to prove that it was done correctly, which means they're probably going to have to go back to their original engineer, get them to run a new topo on it, based on the topo, show that the changes as they said were going to happen. And I don't think at this point you guys had to pull that trump card, but that was the way I understood the formality kind of ended after we met on it as a PNC multiple times, because really it was like construction happens and nobody really ever went back out to check it, but these guys do check it. And if something's wrong, then at that point we were trying to figure out if it was the engineer's responsibility, the applicant's responsibility, the owner's responsibility. In the end, the owner was the best one, because Urban was making a big argument that, oh, it'd be really costly to go back and have to retopo and redo all this. But I mean, at this point, it's like a deck chair off the Titanic. These permits are expensive anyway. So just have to spend a couple grand more to make sure the topo's right. If it doesn't look right, that's on the owner, however they want to address
I mean, when y'all go out afterwards, y'all sort of just eyeball it, right? I mean, so
We've got some pretty blatant things that were wrong and had those corrected, but not, I mean, like Rick said, we can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
Texas one good cold front with 49 northern. wind.
Right, and it all changes anyway, and that's, and GLO is adamant about
By
it being
design,
able to
it's
do that.
supposed to,
Yeah, they want dunes to migrate, which is why they don't allow fences, privacy fences and things like that. So whatever is approved one day, part of it, there's a full expectation that it's gonna be dynamic and change anyway with GLO. So
Rick, you
it's,
mentioned
it's a
earlier,
conundrum for us.
you mentioned earlier that, I don't know exactly how you said it, but the authority rests with the city for approval on these dune permits, and the GLO coming in afterwards, you argued against it, saying, you know, this was our decision. Does the GLO have enforcement, or can they penalize this
Absolutely.
person for?
And they can penalize us when a staff like me says, no, we're not gonna agree that we need a whole new dune permit. We're gonna do a renewal. You know, they can come back and push back. The problem is they don't have the manpower, nor do they want to take over the dune permitting. So like I said, they've delegated us the authority to do that, but yet they still retain the ability to, we've got an issue right now where there's some dune impacts that weren't permitted, weren't allowed, kind of happened over the last few years. We didn't realize it, and people are bowing their back. We've got a lawsuit with them from the city, and then now the GLO stepped in, and they carry a big stick. It's like $1,000 a day, up to $1,000 a day fine, and some other things, you know. So yeah, but like I said, they delegate to us, but they oversee, require that we submit, require that they be allowed to comment, and in 99.9% of the instances, we get everything reconciled. So like I said, in some instances, they actually have to give these applicants a land lease on top of the dune permit. Then there's a land lease from property. Usually it's property north of 1A, all of those properties. There's a land lease from the mean high tide to that house or that property. So if we were to say, no, we're going to approve this dune permit, they'll go, fine, won't give them the land lease. They can't get to it. Do what you want. Now, south of 1A, it's a little different there, you know, but again, it's best to play nice, and they're doing their job. You know.
So there aren't any engineering inspections as they're progressing along in a dune permit? It's
No
just initially
dune
just the
permit
permit?
inspections like there would be in a building permit where every step of the construction is
And at the end, they
inspected.
give you a letter that says, you know, you passed them all and.
I mean, I'm not saying it's done all the time, but like I know that Urban and the big companies do that. But that's as is for that moment in time.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
It really is kind of a moving target.
That truly is
By
what makes
design,
it so
you're
difficult.
protecting something that you're wanting to move around and be natural.
Well, that's.
And a lot of times they'll go out and stake to, you know, to assist the contractor stake out those areas. I mean, that don't, you know, so that they know where those contours are and know, you know, what's the critical dune and where to, you know,
Yeah,
Where to
where to
avoid.
kind of stay away, what to avoid.
okay.
But like I said, I think that there'll be another bite at the apple when and if that coastal management plan comes back to you, but and that may be sooner rather than later.
Thanks for the discussion.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Well, related to item 4.7, does any commissioner have questions, comments?
Make a motion to approve.
Stephen Wilson has motion to approve. Second. Bill Streeter has seconded the motion. Wait, was that Bill or Richard this time? Okay, good. I have my head down. I'm looking at it.
Learned voices.
Yeah. Sorry.
Nick Lorette,
Abstain.
Mike Dayon,
Yes.
William Strieber,
Yes.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Richard K,
Yes,
Stephen Wilson,
Yes.
Chad Schmidt,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item 5, Planning and Zoning Commission comments and items for future. Anything? I guess apparently a coastal management plan at some point.
Hope we get the printer fixed before.
Well, with that, I will call to adjourn the City of Port Aransas Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Thursday, September 28, 2023 at 3:45 p.m.
Thank you, everybody.
You do.
Coyotes like that concrete portion of
I
that
saw a coyote this morning on
boardwalk.
our boardwalk.
Really?
I was walking my dog.
No, but I saw probably no less than six
I
little.
think there's a little
Baby,
family that
little
lives in
rest
our
areas.
city.
It was a little.
Yeah.
Little poop areas on that.
55
Yeah,
black lab.
yeah.
The same
Like that.
thing.
I've
It was-
seen